which is very much attachment. But there's ways to have relationships which are completely free from that. So you can actually be completely present and be loving, completely compassionate to that other person's needs, independent from your own. Because if you don't need anything, you're free from everything. So I think that's in a couple of days, that talk on relationship. So make sure you join me for that, because that follows on from this and really dives deep into this subject. So we get to, if we come from nothing, we have non-attachment, we have freedom, non-thought, we then have the possibility of anything. So we know the brain's conditioned for scarcity and danger, led by the amygdala. That's just our coding, that's just who we are. So that having nothing then gives us the freedom to have anything. So if it's coding for scarcity, I can then, from nothing, start to generate whatever thoughts I want. So I can condition my brain to start looking for the things that are positive. We're going to produce chemicals, right, in our bodies. These are the feelings. So let's choose to start producing the good ones. There's my favorite one, oxytocin, which is a very powerful hormone, which people call the love hormone, because it comes into play when we do something kind, when we're loving to someone. And that can be produced at any time. It's completely free. I just have to do an act of kindness, or receive an act of kindness, or even observe an act of kindness. So at any time in the day, I can do this and produce these chemicals. There's another factor that's important, because it sounds very simple, but there's also another part of it, which we inherit trauma. And I spoke about this yesterday, the studies that show that we inherit trauma from our parents. One of the most famous studies is in the studying the offspring of Holocaust survivors and how their DNA is coded. We're actually coded with our amygdala works the way it works because our ancestors lived in this environment that was very, very dangerous. And so we developed as a species to be risk adverse, to be prepared and assess everything as danger. That's inherited trauma produced our reality. So we have this trauma, which also is our base. So we need to clear that. We need to do catharsis, which we're going to, I think the day after tomorrow, I talk about catharsis. You have to look at my Instagram to get the list of stuff, because I don't remember the order of it. But I know we're going to do catharsis because it's so important, because we've got to clear that environment, or else you'll be having this negative feeling, and that perpetuates the negative thoughts. We're in this environment of negativity. So we want to clear that. And from that, you can pick anything. So you want to start conditioning the brain for positive things. So start noticing the things that are positive and stop having that conversation. You will still exist if you're not constantly having this conversation which are defending your beliefs, which are validating your beliefs. That's what we're doing constantly is, are my beliefs correct? Or, yes, my beliefs are correct, I want to prove it. And so it's very important to get control of this whole convoluted mechanism. I'm going to go to a question, then we're going to come back to some of these tools. If I can, there you go. Can you actually not think? That's a good question. Yes, you can not think. It takes a lot of practice. There's a lot of cultures that spend their time mastering this. In Asia, mostly. So Zen Buddhism, the Zen warriors, they used to do it. They realized that if they controlled their thoughts into non-thought, they're actually much more aware of their existence. They'd be better in battle. What's interesting about that is that you get almost like a sixth sense, which that's a whole other conversation, but it's important just to mention it here because that sense, we all have experienced it. You can tell when someone is thinking something, when they're not listening to you, or when they're upset. Like someone can say, you might have had an argument with someone. You say, hey, are you fine? And they're like, yeah, I'm fine. But really, they're not. You're sensing something. There's actually another phenomenon which I think is really interesting that shows that we have senses out in the quantum field, which this is talked about a lot, that people can sense with food, whether it's good or bad. So there's stories about people going to dinner and someone rejecting it, it doesn't feel right, I'm not going to eat it, without any other sense of the smell or anything like that. Everyone else eats it and they all get sick, and this one person doesn't. They sensed something. And so that's important that we understand that that's also that also is a reality. And we're starting to understand it more now with the study of quantum physics. Often in science has time catching up because it doesn't have the tools to measure it. Once we get the tools to measure it, then it moves very fast. And I think we're getting closer to starting to measuring the quantum field, or understanding the quantum field at least. And then we'll start to understand this stuff like thought, where it exists. This is my reality that I'm creating through my thought, and it's that filter. And so I need to break that down. And we're talking about cultures that have actually done this. There is actually in Tibet, there is this highest level of achievement is when these certain people go and they sit in meditation for 13 years. It's a very hidden part of the culture. There's actually a secret documentary on it that was passed to me on disc, so I don't think it's out on the internet, but it was these people who go into meditation for 13 years. And they sit in a box, in a cave, with a handful of barley, and they're just in a meditative state. And they do it 13 years and 13 months and 13 days, I believe. And so that's their evolution of it. So it's very possible not to think. But if we come from a state of danger, then we're going to be thinking more. So if I come from, maybe I grew up in an environment that was dangerous, or I perceived the environment was dangerous. Now I'm coming from that state. So now I'm trying to protect myself by looking at all possibilities, by thinking. So if I'm thinking of the past, I'm reviewing something so I can defend myself from it in the future. If I'm thinking of the future, I'm preparing for it. And like I said, the value of thought is to strategize. That's the only time you want to think. Other than that, you should practice non-thinking. You should, in your day, not think. I started off with this practice by attaching it to routines that I already did, like brushing my teeth. So every morning when you brush your teeth, don't think. And it's very difficult at first. You'll see your mind grabs you, it hooks you, and starts to take you on down this path on listening. You're telling you a story, and it hooks you and takes you there. What I believe is happening is that your identity wants to exist. So without it, with non-thought, your identity doesn't exist. So like we talked about yesterday, I start performing my identity every day. And I start reacting to things the same way as I do every day. That's how people know it's me. Because I am performing this character that we've labeled Paul. I perform him every day. So non-thought frees me from that. So that gives me the possibility of being anything. So we can take this time now and practice this. So attach non-thought to routines you do in your day. You can even do it when you're doing something else. Like people talk to me about non-thought in driving, because it's a very high risk activity. I have this machine that I could crash into someone and hurt somebody. So the way I explain is non-thought actually makes you present. If I'm not thinking, I'm not distracting myself, I'm actually very present to exactly what I'm doing. So I'm observing the environment outside the car and looking for potential risks. I'm actually more present, not thinking. So the other thing you can do is the walking meditation. 1 minute of non-thought, which is getting an object and putting it in front of you and just looking at that object without thinking, just be observing that object, and that will begin this practice. And you actually do get better at it. And if you think about what's happening is that you're actually going to a state of recovery. You're having a little reprieve, a little break, because thought is producing these chemicals and it's giving me this feeling, typically anxiety or stress, because it thinks that I'm in danger or preparing me for that. And so it's producing all these feelings. And if I don't think, I'm actually having a break from that. That's why people talk about getting so much recovery in meditation. It's because you're actually separating from your thoughts that are producing these chemicals, these feelings. There's another one which is a technique that I use that helps, which is called clearing. And you can try this with a friend, which is bringing the thoughts that are not tangible into this dimension. If I verbalize them, they become a sonic tone. That exists, that has matter. So what I do, I will get together with someone and just kind of rant on everything that's going on in my head. Not gossiping. Gossiping is a whole different thing. Gossiping becomes gossiping when I'm looking for agreement and you're giving me agreement. This is very different. And it's a fine line separating them, but it's got to have a distinction. So all I'm going to do is say, I come in and go, this happened today and that happened. I hate that and this happened, and whatever you want. There's complete freedom, and you've got to have an agreement with that other person that they're not going. That once you're done, it's done, and you're not going to bring up anything that was brought up, or else it becomes risky for that person to be able to verbalize it. But getting this thought out of your head will actually clear it for you. Because as I mentioned at the beginning, thoughts are not tangible. I can't grab them and wrestle them away. They don't exist. There's no matter to them. So I can, if I verbalize it, it actually disappears them. It gets rid of them. So it's a very powerful technique to do this clearing. And you can say anything and set a timer, maybe a minute or whatever, 3 minutes, whatever you need to get out, and just rant, get it out. Say what you need to say. It's a form of catharsis. It's a form of getting off. So now I'm not holding on to it all myself. I'm purging it. I'm getting it outside of me. It becomes tangible. I can deal with it then. So try that in your day, and you want to get a partner that you trust that's not going to bring it up or use it against you at some point. So that's a really powerful one. The walking meditation, the non-thought, and the other meditations are all really powerful. I'm going to throw up this as soon as I can get to it. I'm going to put a little post for today, and then ask me. You can throw in your questions down there in the comments, and we can I can answer them in the comments too. Hypervigilance, yes, Chuck, that's exactly it. We're in a state of distraction if we're thinking, and there's a hypervigilance, and nothing is everything. You're exactly right. So if I have nothing, I actually have everything because I'm not trying to attain it, which will come up in another topic, how having nothing or thinking nothing gives you the power of everything, and that's where the power is. Guys, I'm going to run. I thank you so much. Thanks for joining me. I think we've got 4 more of these days left, so join in, and I appreciate you being here.